Howdy y'all, welcome back to Little Bits. We are looking at a build of the SC792. It's got some extra modules here. In the previous two videos, I fumbled around and got npm2 working on this computer and the SC126. I have since built out a binary distribution of all the files you need so that you don't have to go building them yourself. You can download that file, unzip it, and start installing the software onto the system right away. This video will show you how to do that. We're going to use this computer to set it up, and I'll walk you through the steps in a little more streamlined video than my last two. Should be a little shorter, should be a lot shorter, but that way you can go grab the binary distribution, follow along the video, get yours up and running if you have one of these computers, and get started using npm2. Next videos we'll look at coding on the platform, actually writing software for it. But this one we're just going to do another quick setup, and we're going to use my binary distribution of npm2 to get that done. All right, see you at the command line. So to begin with, we want to go to my download section and download the binary distribution. This is also available on GitHub. If you go to my GitHub at Gaius Jocundus with a J, Jocundus with a J, you can see the full source code. I'm going to download it into this directory that I've prepared, SCC for small computer central stuff. You can see I've got all sorts of stuff kind of available here that I've already prepared. I've got backups of CF images. I've got some extras that I've actually included these with the distribution. They were not all tested. The move command doesn't seem to work well on npm2, but everything else works well. I'm removing this fgames because it's an older version of the free game.lbr, and that's what I distribute on my website. It's just a small collection of games that have been tested on CPM with Veza, the build of Veza for CPM. The bin dist directory that we've just extracted is everything you need to get npm up and running. We're going to start with the SCM apps. We don't necessarily need to install everything in this binary distribution, but we do need all the SCM apps. We don't need these package files. Once you have SCM installed, you can install these package files using the download.com command. The mbasic you don't need, and CPM211 files you don't need, but I do recommend you put them. In this video, we won't actually install those. We're going to do a very minimal system. The LBR file, this LBR directory contains most of the files you actually need once you get XM, Xmodem, and your download.com installed. Download.com, you really only need to pull Nulu, but I include it so that you can pull the CPM211 files and mbasic as well, because those are typically distributed with this build of CPM2. We're going to get into Small Computer Monitor. We're going to start sending over our SCM apps. Assuming we have a blank CF card, compact flash adapter card, or compact flash card rather, we'll want to format it. We upload it, we run the code by going to 8000 where the code was placed. Now it's formatted. Next we want to install CPM itself. With the putsys plus command. We run that. Now CPM is on the system, but we still want to install a couple things. We're going to start with the download.com command. We need to make sure we run it. Don't just upload it. You got to actually run it. And then you can boot into CPM, run the command it gives. And that saves the contents of that memory into a file on the file system. We need to reboot because we need to do this again with Xmodem. Again, remember to run it, and then we can start CPM, and we can save Xmodem. Now we have both those files. Now we want to start downloading package files, and these we will need to turn hardware flow control on. So we do that real quick. And I'm going to skip the two files I said that were optional. I'm just going to go ahead and install Nulu. I could have included a non-packaged version of Nulu that you could download with XM. I didn't think about that at the time, but future releases, I might just throw that in there. That way you don't have to have download.com to get Nulu.com. You can just do Xmodem. I'm turning it back off because we're not going to download any more things with download.com. We're going to go ahead and start doing Xmodem stuff to get the rest of our files. You can see this build of XM has a lot of options. We don't really need any of them except for R and S for receive and send respectively. First, I'm going to move to the directory that I want because this build of XM times out quickly. So let's just make sure we're already in the on the Minicom side, like already loaded into the directory we want. We want kern Z180. You might want Z180N. If you don't want to pull your direct line low, use the N version. It is built to not require the DMA. I'm going to use the DMA version because I have my direct line pulled low with a pull down resistor, as explained in previous videos. I'm kind of just throwing everything into the O directory because that's just kind of become my standard backup directory. O and N, I tend to use those for backups. So we need the kernel loader. We need the kernel itself. We also need the distribution files, the actual npm2 commands. And this is technically all you need. After this, you can start the system once you get these installed to the A drive. But you'll see that there's more. We might want to include more. For now, we'll go ahead and extract these though, because this is the minimal required system. You see, I've left off my drive there for the second command. Oh, there we go. Make sure you're specifying the correct drives as you open these libraries. And here I'm just saying open one, extract it to A, open the next one, extract it to A, open the last one, extract it to A, and then exit. And you see a lot of these are .prl commands. These are page relocatable commands. They're basically COM files with some extra metadata that allows the system to do something with it. I assume it means they can be moved around between pages, but that assumption is not confirmed. I actually have a hard time finding documentation that generally explains the difference between PRL and .com commands. So I'm a little confused about how they work. But you can see we can start npm2 right now. But let's try and set the time. This is something we're going to have to do every time we boot if we want the clock to be correct. And it can be important to be correct. Oh, it didn't work, a legal specification. And that's because the time of date command does not, the TOD command, I don't know if that's what it stands for. It's not Y2K compliant. It does not understand dates beyond 2000. So we're going to restart. We restarted and we booted back into CPM, not NPM. get our Y2K tools. These are rebuilds of various tools that add Y2K compliance to the system. We might also want to go ahead and grab other packages, such as the add-on package. And I'll demonstrate why we might need that in a little bit, particularly if we want to use the schedule command. We have to have the schedule add-on built into our kernel, which it is not currently. I'm also going to grab CPM tools because this includes our Aztec C compiler along with a bunch of other tools. Now, I have repackaged Aztec C by itself elsewhere, but in this binary distribution, we're using the CPM tools that come with the npm2 source code for RCBus. And that it has more than just the C compiler toolchain in it. It has a bunch of extra commands, and it may be more than you want, but you can extract things piece by piece, file by file if you want. So, but I do recommend just installing all of these for now. You can install them directly to the A drive. You can install them to another drive and have them separate. I'm mostly just installing things directly to the A drive here because it is our system drive, and I kind of want things to be on the system drive. But there are concerns, especially if you're trying to use multi-user password protection to make sure that only users with the password can run certain commands. You might want to segregate out these tools into their own drive and just put a password on everything in that drive, for example. So there are different ways you can set this up than how I'm going to show today, but it really boils down to how do you want to segregate access to certain tools between users. And I actually have an issue with the set command and how it works, because if anyone has access to the set command, they can turn off password protection for the drive. But I also kind of want everyone to have access to the set command so they can set their own passwords. So I think we're going to need to write, either myself or as a community, like a dedicated set password command for that can't just turn off drive protection as well. So here we go. We're going to unload. We're going to archive our Y2K tools in our add-on library. And you can see here I have forgotten the O drive for our add-on 180.lbr. We're also just going to go ahead and unpack our CPM tools. I've also forgot the O drive there. In fact, my command is very wrong. I'm not even open. I put a -E where there needs to be a -O, but you see it's like, okay, I didn't find this. Do you want to open a new one? So I just exit out of that. I'm still in Nulu. I haven't exited Nulu, so I'm just going to go ahead and from this command line, try to reopen those files. There we go. Bascom, for example, is not a part of the Aztec C distribution. CNM is not part of it. CRC, CREF80, those aren't part of it. DirX, disk info. You can see there's a Nulu in here as well. So there are some duplicates in this distribution, and they'll just overwrite each other, and that's fine. All right, there's everything we've just installed. Now we might want to actually do a new GenSys to include our add-ons because our add-ons are not built into the kernel that's supplied. So if you want to use those add-ons, you do have to rerun GenSys. And here I'm just selecting all the defaults, and you can change anything here you want. And here's our options. I'm just going to enable all of the included add-ons. There we go. And then again, just selecting defaults, moving down. Now all our add-ons are enabled, and we can npm start, or we can start npm. I installed this games, I downloaded games off camera because I didn't want to wait forever because it's a huge file. Now we can set the date. And you want to set it a little bit ahead of time, and it gives you a chance to wait until the clock catches up, and then you hit enter when the clock catches up, and now you're synced up. I also want to get my text editor on here. And my text editor is not part of the distribution. I have that, again, in my SCC directory. It's already prepared. I do distribute this on the website in my download section if you want to grab it. We had to restart to get XM to download again, so we got to reset the time here. Just demonstrating that the clock is running. Control C to exit out. Here's our contents again. We're gonna extract our text editor. And this is just so I don't have to use ed. I've learned ed and I've forgotten everything I've learned about ed. So I really prefer edit and vettit. And again, if anyone can make a vi that can load files larger than memory, a vi that can load sections of large files at a time as necessary, like a real vi, a useful vi, I would love you. I would fall in love with you forever. Now I've created this text file, and you can see I created it with ed, and I got frustrated, so I went and grabbed vettit because I knew I had to edit this mistake. And this is just, we're going to set up password protection, and we're going to set up timestamping. The update is the type of timestamp that it can. This last section sets our commands in A, or whatever drive you run this from, as system commands. And system commands are available anywhere on the file system to any user, which solves our pathing problems that I was complaining about in my second video on this subject. I'm going to change to user 1 and demonstrate that I can run commands that I've set to system without creating copies of them. See, I can run vettit. Esther showed nothing in the directory, but it did run. And I can change back to user. It's a system command now, so any user can use it. I'm just kind of running commands here. All right, so let's demonstrate schedule. We did have to make sure that schedule was enabled as an add-on by running GenSys and enabling it. But now we can run a command at a scheduled time, and it will run in the background so that you can keep doing things. You can schedule something to run, and this is how you do it. You give it a time stamp, and then you give it a command. I just gave it TOD persistent. And now I'm just kind of looking at stuff while I wait. You see nothing's loaded into memory now except, of course, the npm system. I'm just demonstrating that we can run other commands. Ooh, that readme is not formatted very well. If I scroll up, you will be able to read it, but it usually doesn't dump quite like that. I'm going to erase that version just to, again, to demonstrate that I can run commands. I usually keep that README on the system. I could be playing a game if I wanted to, and that schedule command would still run at the time. I don't need that backup file. There it goes. It ran. It's running. The clock hit the scheduled time and the command executed. The set command is very important. This is how we are going to protect our files. And this is also how we set system files. And this help command is very useful because a lot of these commands don't have help output on CPM, but most of the NPM commands do have help output of some kind. And you can see it's very capable. So if we want to protect the system, we have to password protect the set command. Otherwise, anyone can just turn off password protection for any drive. At first I thought, oh, we keep set so that various users can set their password, but no, only if they have access to the set command, they can just disable password protection on a drive, which is not ideal. So again, I think we'll want a dedicated kind of set password command if we want multiple users of multiple access levels to have their own passwords for things. Say someone wanted to password protect their game files so someone else doesn't overwrite their game save files. So just as an example. So here's an example of me using set to set the password on other files, but I've set a password on set. So I need to feed it the password in order for it to work. And this is how you feed passwords to commands. You do a semicolon after you call it. Well, I want these to be password protected by the same password, so any administrator with the password can use them. Okay, so the password's set on both those files, but what if we want to do it again? Do we want to type the password every time we want to use the set command? If we try it again and forget to do that, we're going to get that same password error. So this is how we can set the default password. If we know our password and we know that all the files are protected by the same password, we can set this default as such. And now, any command you run that's password protected, it will attempt to use that default password first. And you can see we can run the set command now without having to supply a password manually. And here we see, here's our protected commands. You can see timestamps on the files that were created after we turned on timestamping. You can see that these compilers, I've set them to read protection so that no one can read, write, or delete them without the correct password. You can set them to write or delete. And that's it. We've got everything installed. We've got it up and running. Very quick and simple install compared to kind of my previous fumbling around. Everything's in one place now. You can get to it on my website. You can get to it on GitHub. You get a full build tool chain in Aztec C. You get some extra commands in the CPM tools, things you might want to use to develop software for the system and to develop specifically on the system, because a lot of the code we write for these things are cross-compiled, and I've really been disappointed in only having access to cross-compiled tool chains. But everything here we can build on the system, even use the VGA terminal, not even have it connected to this, and start coding without any external connections to another computer if we want to, and have a full, complete development system. And that's what we'll talk about next time, is how to actually write software for the system, how to generate PRL commands from COM commands if you want page relocatable files. Although again, I don't really understand fully what benefit that brings, but it does have something to do with obviously being able to be relocated between pages. So it's probably pretty beneficial for an NPM setup to generate PRL files as your command executables. All right, well, thanks everybody for listening. Peace.